They called her the White Mouse, a phantom flitting through the shadows of occupied France, so elusive that the Gestapo, in their mounting frustration, placed a staggering 5 million franc bounty on her head. But Nancy Wake was no timid creature. She was a firestorm, a warrior, one of the most decorated and formidable special agents of the Second World War. This is the story of the woman who became the Gestapo's most wanted, a leader of men who fought with a fury born from witnessing pure evil. Her story begins not in the battlefields of Europe, but under the southern sun. Born in Wellington, New Zealand, in 1912, Nancy moved to Sydney, Australia, as a toddler. From a young age, a fierce, rebellious spirit burned within her. She chafed against the conventions of the time and the strictures of her deeply religious mother. At just 16, with £200 inherited from an aunt, she did the unthinkable. She ran away from home, determined to see the world. Her journey first took her to London, and then to the vibrant, bohemian heart of Paris, where she landed a job as a freelance journalist. She was living a life most only dreamed of, full of excitement and independence. But the world was darkening. In the mid-1930s, an assignment took her to Vienna. It was there she came face to face with the true nature of the rising Nazi Party. She watched in horror as Nazi gangs roamed the streets, dragging Jewish men and women from their homes, tying them to a large wheel, and whipping them mercilessly. The images were seared into her mind. She later said, "I saw the gangs of Nazi thugs roaming the streets. I saw them beating up Jewish men and women. And I resolved there and then that if I ever had the chance, I would do anything I could to bring them down." This was not just a political disagreement for Nancy. It was a visceral, personal vow. In 1939, just as the world tipped into war, Nancy found love. She married Henri Fiocca, a wealthy and handsome French industrialist in Marseille. They could have lived a life of quiet luxury, insulated from the conflict. But when France fell to the German invasion in 1940, safety was the last thing on Nancy's mind. While Henry ran his business, Nancy used her new status and wealth to join the fight. She became an ambulance driver, but soon her role evolved into something far more dangerous. She became a key courier for the fledgling French resistance, using her charm and disarming smile to bluff her way through German checkpoints. She soon connected with Captain Ian Garrow, a British officer, and helped build one of the most effective escape lines of the war. This network, later known as the Pat O'Leary Line, guided hundreds of stranded Allied airmen and escaped prisoners of war south through France, over the treacherous Pyrenees Mountains, and into the safety of neutral Spain. Nancy's apartment in Marseille became a crucial safe house, a revolving door for fugitives. The work was perilous. A single mistake, a single informant, could mean capture, torture, and death. It was during this time that her legend grew. Her ability to change her appearance, to adopt new identities, and to slip through the Gestapo's grasp time and again was uncanny. She was a master of evasion. On one occasion, she leaped from a train to avoid a checkpoint, rolling down an embankment and disappearing into the woods. On another, she charmed her way past suspicious guards with a flirtatious smile and a convincing story. The Gestapo knew of her existence. They knew a woman was at the heart of this escape line, but they could never catch her. Frustrated, they gave her the code name WWII, the White Mouse, and the price on her head continued to climb. By late 1942, the net was tightening. Her network had been betrayed, and the Gestapo was closing in. Her own escape became a desperate necessity. After multiple failed attempts, she finally made a grueling journey across the Pyrenees on foot. But reaching the safety of Britain wasn't the end of her war. It was the beginning of a new, even more dangerous chapter. She didn't want a quiet job behind a desk. She wanted to go back. She walked into the offices of the British Special Operations Executive, or SOE, the secret organization Churchill had created to set Europe ablaze. The SOE saw her potential immediately. Here was a woman who was not only brave and committed, but who knew occupied France intimately. They put her through their grueling training regimen in the wilds of Scotland. She learned sabotage, how to handle explosives, silent killing, radio communications, and parachute jumping. She excelled at everything, proving tougher than many of the men training alongside her. One instructor noted her remarkable ferocity, saying she was a very feminine woman until the fighting starts. Then she is like 5 men. In the early hours of April 30th, 1944, just weeks before the D-Day landings, Nancy Wake parachuted back into the darkness of occupied France. Her mission: to land in the Auvergne region, a hotbed of resistance activity, and act as a liaison between London and the local Maquis fighters. She was to organize them, equip them with weapons from Allied airdrops, and prepare them to wreak havoc on the Germans when the invasion began. Upon landing, she found her parachute tangled in a tree. The French captain who met her on the ground remarked, "I hope all the trees in France bear such beautiful fruit this year." She retorted, "Don't give me that French shit." Nancy immediately took charge. She was the paymaster, the organizer, and the military strategist. She coordinated airdrops of weapons and supplies for a fighting force that swelled to over 7,000 men. These weren't professional soldiers, but farmers, mechanics, and students. Nancy transformed them into a disciplined guerrilla army. She didn't just give orders. She led from the front. She led attacks on German garrisons, supply convoys, and railway lines, creating chaos behind enemy lines and tying up thousands of German troops who were desperately needed at the Normandy front. Her personal courage became legendary among the Maquis. In one famous incident, her radio operator was forced to destroy his codes during a German raid. To get new ones, Nancy rode a bicycle for over 500 kilometers, a journey of more than 300 miles through hostile territory and past German checkpoints. She completed the round trip in just 72 hours, collapsing upon her return. On another occasion, during a surprise attack on their camp, she discovered an SS sentry on watch. Before he could raise the alarm, Nancy killed him with a single silent judo chop to the neck. She later stated bluntly, "They taught me this in So, and I was a fast learner. It was the only time I ever used it, but it worked." She commanded the absolute respect of her fighters. They called her Madame André, and they would have followed her anywhere. When Paris was liberated in August 1944, Nancy was there, riding atop a tank, a bottle of champagne in hand. But her joyous victory was tragically short-lived. With France free, she began the desperate search for her husband, Henry. The news, when it came, was devastating. The Gestapo, unable to find Nancy, had arrested Henry in 1943. They tortured him brutally for months, demanding to know his wife's whereabouts. Henry Fiocca never broke. He never betrayed her. He was executed by the Gestapo, having given his life to protect the woman he loved. The discovery left Nancy utterly heartbroken, a deep wound that never fully healed. After the war, Nancy Wake became one of the most decorated servicewomen of the Allied forces. She received the George Medal from Britain, the Croix de Guerre, and the Légion d'honneur from France, the Medal of Freedom from the United States, and honors from Australia and New Zealand. Her post-war life was restless. She worked for the British Air Ministry and even ran for political office in Australia. She lived a long life, passing away in London in 2011 at the age of 98. As per her wishes, her ashes were scattered in the mountains of the Auvergne, the place where she fought so fiercely for the freedom of a country she loved.